Coming up on 2020 on ID.
You got a murderer.
Designing women, dealing from the bottom of the deck, accused of scheming, stealing, even killing. The girlfriend on trial for murder by stiletto.
You spill blood in your hands, and I did it.
And the secret, she says, led to his death.
He would like for me to kind of step on him.
Dressed to kill. Plus, the married ex-stripper with a taste for sugar daddies. Did she go gold digging with a hammer to the head?
This is the Addams family. This is stranger than Jodi Arias.
And the Craigslist con woman, promising a childless couple her baby that didn't exist, even faking the birth on the phone. Also, in love and planning their blowout wedding when the bride-to-be goes missing.
We do feel like she is in danger.
Got that text that she is kidnapped.
Kidnapped? Or something more shocking?
Tiffany was there in the room by herself.
Designing women. Welcome to 2020 on ID. I'm John Quinones. From lies that spin out of control to scams to murder, the women you're about to meet have left lives in shambles. First, Ana Trujillo admits she killed her lover. But what grabbed national headlines was the murder weapon, a blue suede 5.5-inch stiletto heel. In 2014, Ryan Smith first brought us the story of a woman who said she acted in self-defense. But was she dressed to kill?
A woman accused of killing a man with her stiletto heel.
Ana Trujillo is being held here, and testimony is still going on.
Prosecutor Sarah Mickelson demonstrated to the jury.
Houston has some crazy, crazy crime, and this is one of the craziest things that I think a lot of us have ever seen.
About 10 puncture wounds to the head.
When you hear of someone dying, especially a brutal death, they're being shot, they're stabbed, but no one ever thinks there's going to be a stiletto heel in the middle of it, right?
Yes, who ever heard of assault by deadly footwear? The crime scene, a ritzy condo in this high-end high-rise, and the accused, a petite, soft-spoken mom looking at life in prison, telling her story to 2020.
It's very surreal. It feels like it happened to someone else, and I'm just watching it.
Born in Mexico, Ana Trujillo came to America with dreams of making it big. Married twice, the mother of 2 young girls, she was a striking, vibrant young woman who was once the host of a community access show and called herself Anna Fox.
Thank you for joining me and enjoying ourselves.
The producer said I had a bubbly personality.
Is that who you are? That TV host with that bubbly personality?
Yes, I am, actually. I'm usually very optimistic. I love life. I love friends. And I just believe in being me.
But those big dreams jumped the track as she landed on the hard side of town. Jim Carroll met her at the Lawndale Hotel, where they both once lived.
What was she like?
She laughed a lot. I mean, she was really cool. She just talked about spirituality and the pyramids and ghosts and the tarot.
She was a drifter, floating from job to job, wishing for the right things, attracted to the wrong people.
She brought several men to the hotel, and finally I started talking to her. I said, look, you know, we can't have none of that business going on here.
And how many men would you estimate this was?
4 to 6 men. One of them was the professor.
His name? Stefan Andersson, a naturalized citizen from Sweden who worked at the University of Houston as a medical researcher. Tell me about him.
Well, he was very charming. He had a beautiful young spirit. He was a professor, and that is really what attracted me.
How did he treat you in the beginning?
Oh, he was wonderful.
In the beginning, it was all so carefree. Here at the local taco shop, Bodegas, they were regulars, and his friend, Adam Benjamin, remembers the early days of their romance.
You can see Stefan right there.
So what was Stefan's taste in women?
Stefan liked attractive women in heels with nice legs, but he didn't have girlfriends or anything like that.
Why do you think he felt so connected to Anna?
She was a bad girl. It's the opposites attract.
Within weeks, she'd moved on up to his deluxe apartment in the sky. You wanted to marry him.
Yes.
He wanted to marry you.
Yes.
It wasn't all about love. It was also about sex. Kinky sex. Trujillo claims her man had a thing for shoes, and she was happy to oblige. What did he want you to do?
He had a shoe fetish. He would like for me to kind of step on him.
Step on him?
Well, walk on him. He liked a little bit of pain.
But just months after they met, that happily ever after began to wear thin.
His drinking started concerning me. I didn't know what it was to be with, I say, an alcoholic.
He drank a lot, but he didn't seem to be an angry drunk. He seemed like a troubled and gentle soul.
A troubled soul who, according to Anna, had a hidden dark side.
He was super sweet and nice, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he would just turn into this other person. He would just start accusing me of things.
Like what?
Why did you leave me? How come you didn't take me with you?
What would you do when he did this?
I would not provoke him. I would just be quiet.
Did other people know about this side of him? Did other friends see him like this?
He hid it really well.
It was a hot summer night when Anna and Stefan go out for a night at Club 5015. They share a bottle of wine, chased by a few shots of tequila. In this case, a combustible mix. Anna is dressed to kill in her 5.5-inch blue velvet stilettos.
I had the huge high heels that he loved for me to wear.
It made you happy to buy the stiletto that he liked.
I had to be very careful because the shoes were so high.
Surveillance videos at the restaurant paint a portrait of a good time girl. Take a look as she flirts with a stranger at the bar, then does a sexy chair dance. At first, she and Stefan seem to be having a great night out, but by the time she is ready to leave, he is not.
I was going to leave early in the morning to go see my daughter. I wanted to leave, not stay out very long. He kept wanting to stay longer.
That decision to go home is the spark, she says, that will ignite a firestorm. Still, the last images captured at the nightclub show Stefan calm as he leaves the bar with Anna. Was he wasted by the time you got to the cab?
Yeah.
As the cab pulls up, Rosemary Gomez was at the wheel, accompanied by her husband.
I was just taking the fare like I normally do.
As the couple approaches the cab, Reagan Cannon said Anna was loud and abusive.
She tells him, go get a cab. No.
In Anna's version of the story, it's Stefan who was getting aggressive. You say he starts getting agitated.
I just remember him looking at me angry.
Angry from Anna's point of view, but not from the front seat, where Reagan Cannon has some advice for the shy professor.
I said, are you a man or a mouse? Come on, dude. I said, what are you doing letting her talk to you like that?
It is past 2 in the morning when the taxi drops them off at Dr. Anderson's pad.
But you had a funny feeling that something was going to happen.
He squeezed my hand and he said, no, I'll be okay. And I told him, I said, I just have a feeling something's going to happen.
Look at these photos. Coming home from the bar, walking calmly to the elevator. It was the last time Anderson was seen alive, but Anna claims he was on the verge of a murderous rage.
All of a sudden, he just turns around and has a complete different look on him. Angry.
As the couple sets foot inside the apartment, her life was about to change irreversibly, and his about to end.
He starts to pull me. I still have my shoes on. So he grabs me by my hands. He bangs me against the wall. He kept saying that I was going to leave him and I wasn't coming back. He's screaming and yelling and ranting and just, I saw the way you were looking at those guys. When he threw me over the couch and I fell completely backwards and my head hit, I saw black.
Did you feel like your life was in danger at that point?
Yes.
In the darkness, she reaches for the only weapon she could find, one of those blue stilettos, and starts striking.
When I reach down to feel him and you feel blood in your hands, that is a horror of someone you love, and that I did it, that accidentally I did it. I didn't even know that he was bleeding and he wouldn't stop. Nothing is facing them. He's unstoppable.
When we come back, Anna Trujillo's emotional call to 911.
Are you reporting an assault, ma'am? Yeah, he started beating me up.
But is that the entire story? A friend recounts a far different side of Anna.
She told me that if anybody ever messed with her, I'll get them with this. And it was a big stiletto heel.
Stay with us.
Are you reporting an assault, ma'am? Yeah, he assaulted me. I hit her with my shoe and he's bleeding. He started beating me up.
When Houston police received Anna Trujillo's desperate 911 call, they raced to her boyfriend's high-rise condo and walked into a slaughterhouse.
The crime scene photos in this case were especially gruesome. The blood spatter, the victim still lying there, It was a tragedy, and it was horrible.
The hallway was streaked with blood. The deceased, medical researcher Stephen Anderson, barely recognizable from more than 24 stab wounds to his head, face, and neck, all from the heel of Anna's blue velvet stilettos. Stephen's hair still stuck to the heel. And on a glass table nearby, a macabre sign. Trujillo's Book of Tarot turned to the picture of death. Instantly, the police officer was suspicious.
He just yelled at me and took his gun out and he told me to get down on the ground. I thought they were there to help us. The millions of officers showed up and where was the ambulance?
Anna tells police Anderson had attacked her, that she killed him in self-defense. She was drenched in blood. Police bring her in for questioning, and Anna gives a rambling, disjointed statement that includes little about the actual killing.
It's a meandering sort of my life up till now 3-hour tape in which she talks about what actually happened the night of very briefly.
The cops have heard enough. They put her under arrest.
They're blaming me. They're telling me that I killed him. I am not a murderer.
She's booked post-bail and is put under house arrest. But as the countdown to trial begins, Houston was riveted.
The murder weapon is a 5.5-inch heel.
Stabbing her boyfriend to death with
and it was a bloody scene.
Each day, new allegations surfaced about the violence in her past. Brian Goodney, a former friend, remembers a startling attack.
Walk her to the door, turn around to open the door, and get hit on the back of the head with a candlestick.
That was the last thing you remembered?
She knocked me out.
And remember the Lawndale Hotel where her friend Jim Carroll once lived? He told the most jaw-dropping tale of all.
She told me that if anybody ever messed with her, she pulled her shoe off. She says, "I'll get them with this." And it was a big stiletto heel.
The trial began in a burst of lights, camera, and bravado.
Feeling confident?
Do I look like I got scared?
From the beginning, prosecutors pull no punches, focusing the jury on that killer heel, really the star witness in this case. Over and over, they demonstrate the brutality of the crime.
In trial, we saw an x-ray of the shoe. To the naked eye, it just looks like a cobalt blue stiletto high heel. But once you saw that x-ray, it looked like an ice hammer.
He had 10 puncture wounds on his head, 15 to 20 around his neck, face, and arms. That is excessive for a lot of people.
Excessive, what he was doing to me? He was enraged. He hit me on the head with my own shoe.
Even though his case is far from a slam dunk, Anna's attorney, Jack Carroll, still seemed confident.
Was Anna justified in her actions that night? What the evidence is. Whether she hit him once, hit him 25 times or 100 times, she felt her life was in danger, the jury can't convict.
To prove the case, Carroll had to convince the jury that Anderson flew into a violent rage at his apartment. These photos, taken 48 hours after the murder, show bruises, but it wasn't clear when she got them.
The defense wanted to portray her as a victim and as someone who only did this because she had to.
Remember that surveillance video from the apartment? The last images of Anderson alive? He seems calm and collected, but his blood alcohol is almost twice the legal limit.
I think we've all seen people that drink a lot and, act one way in public and they go home and they act a different way. Anna was alone in Stefan Anderson's apartment and he went off the deep end.
Did the mild-mannered professor attack his girlfriend in a drunken, jealous rage?
She talked about being smothered at one point and then he was grabbing her. That's when she started hitting him with a shoe.
But it's the murder weapon itself, that $29 stiletto shoe, that could come to Anna's rescue.
It's not a gun. It's not a knife. It's not the typical thing someone would use to kill someone. So that could help the defense in saying she just grabbed whatever she could.
On the morning of April 6th, the sun rose over a perfect spring day in Houston. Closing arguments in the Trujillo case were about to begin.
It won't be until your just verdict that she ceases to be the stiletto stabber, and she will then forever be Anna Trujillo, murderer.
But the defense argued that she was fighting for her life.
As long as she reasonably fears the threat of serious bodily injury or death, she's justified.
After less than 2 hours of deliberation, the verdict was swift and unequivocal.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Anna Trujillo, guilty of murder as charged in the indictment.
She is now a convicted murderer, sentenced to life in prison. And though that shoe may fit, she still refuses to wear it.
We all have opinions of what we would or wouldn't do, or why, or how. But when you find yourself in a situation, you don't know either, because it's a situation.
You don't know what you're going to do when that happens.
You think you do, but you don't.
In spite of all of that, you loved him.
I love him, and I'm mourning, and I'm sad, and I'm in pain, and I have no closure. And it's not my fault.
As of 2014, Anna Trujillo is appealing her conviction. She will be eligible for parole in the year 2043, when she will be 75 years old. When we return, an ex-stripper and her sugar daddy boyfriend. Why was her husband murdered?
This is the Addams Family. This is stranger than Jodi Arias.
Stay with us. A wife with a secret life, a husband beaten to death, and a case that became a sensation. In 2014, Jim Avila first told us about a troubled couple where infidelity and a thirst for money added up to murder.
Phoenix, Arizona, the Valley of the Sun, where hot asphalt seems to bake human tempers, delivering simmering trials and raven-haired killers. Jodi Arias, and now this woman, Marissa DeWaugh.
We thought coming into this trial that it was going to be the next Jodi Arias trial, but this is the Addams Family. This is stranger than Jodi Arias.
Are these the hands of a murderess? Is this the face of a killer? Or is 36-year-old Marissa a victim, so battered by an abusive husband that she bludgeoned 34-year-old David Harrell to death with multiple blows to his head?
The 36-year-old Gilbert woman claims she was a victim of abuse, but the prosecution is telling a different story.
Marissa DeWaugh could face the death penalty.
Killer or victim? The puzzle that has stumped Phoenix, Arizona since January of 2009. From the beginning, just hours after the bloody attack that splattered the couple's master bedroom from floor to ceiling, Marissa DeWaugh tells a story of constant abuse, verbal and physical.
How did he hit you?
With his fists.
Okay, and where was he hitting on your body?
And he just kept hitting me.
Marissa even stands to show police how she says her husband of 9 years raped her on the night of the attack, choking her before forcing her on the bed against her will.
So you came home, you want to have sex, didn't you? Got mad? You wake up, he's raping you. Hands are on your neck.
He likes that. He likes it because he can hold right here.
Got it. Okay.
At times, crying at appropriate times, seeming completely distraught, and yet at other times, she was almost smiling in an uncomfortable way that a seasoned detective would probably look at and at the very least find odd.
For police, it was an odd story and an odd victim. Dale and Marissa had met as teens in their hometown of Lake Havasu, Arizona, a party town known for outrageous spring breaks. They met up again years later in their 20s in Phoenix. By then, Marissa had a baby. She was a stripper, and according to her former friend and nanny, Amy Dewey, an opportunistic Marissa saw Dale as a catch. What was the attraction?
I think that she saw a man who had just graduated from refrigeration school and had the potential to make money. It was always about the money.
Amy lived with Marissa and Dale for a time in Phoenix before their marriage.
Was there any sense that Dale was violent in any way?
No. She would come home and try to pick a fight with him or try to provoke him, and he would just tell her, I'm not going to fight with you. I love you. Let's work this out.
Then came the day Amy was fired after a chilling conversation. If true, it would foreshadow a future grisly murder.
She came to me and said, Dale is dreaming about having sex with you. I don't think that's appropriate. I'm concerned for your safety. Dale is dreaming about killing you with a hammer. You have to go.
Fast forward to one January night, Dale in his bedroom, critically wounded by, yes, a hammer.
My husband was trying to hurt me, trying to kill me.
In the interrogation room, Marissa plays the battered woman card. But police do not buy her sob story, and prosecutors don't think a jury will either.
Opening statements today in the case of a woman accused of killing her own husband.
The real motive for that tool-time thrashing, they say, was a big fat payday.
Marissa's a woman who likes money. But more than that, she likes easy money.
Prosecutors showed the crime scene in vivid detail, displaying Dale's deadly injuries. Arizona Republic writer Michael Kiefer is in the courtroom.
You know, she put a fist-size hole in the side of his skull.
Then the prosecution begins to reveal a secret life that Marissa never spoke of. A past that includes working that pole at a strip club.
The risky behavior, the boyfriend, the stripping. You get a picture of someone who doesn't have rules.
Living on the edge.
Yeah.
One of those lovers, Alan Flores, loaded with cash. They met on a website for rich men called SeekingArrangements.com, the so-called elite sugar daddy dating website.
So you began having sex the first day you met?
Correct. In return, he loans her more than $300,000, keeping meticulous track of every dime.
To hear him tell it, she's going to pay it back any day now. This insurance money's going to come through. Don't worry about it.
There it is. What prosecutors believe is the real motive for the murder. A big life insurance policy on Dale, earmarked to pay back her sugar daddy.
A new insurance policy that was worth $1 million.
It was not looking good for Marissa, but her defense had yet to start. And when it did, a blockbuster of its own. Until then, really nobody had said anything positive about Marissa.
Nobody.
Marissa had an ally, her oldest daughter, Rhiannon, named after the Fleetwood Mac song. And she has a devastating story to tell about her stepdad, Dale.
Her daughter came in and said, yes, Dad hit Mom. And said, yes, Dad had his affairs. He'd come home smelling of some other woman's perfume. And when the prosecutor brought up, well, didn't your mother hit your father as well? She said, well, not nearly as much as my father hit my mother. That was damning.
It was a tough defense for Dale's family and friends to hear, but would it sway the 7-woman and 5-man jury?
Do you find the defendant as to count 1, first-degree murder, guilty?
Murder in the first degree, guilty. The jury ruling 36-year-old Marissa DeVois, mother, stripper, and gold digger, was now a killer too.
It's unfathomable. Why did Dale die? It seems like they proved in court that he died for money.
Why did he put up with her, you think?
He loved her. She killed the one person who loved her.
Marissa DeVois was sentenced to life in prison without parole. As of 2014, she plans to appeal her conviction. Up next, the designing woman who scammed a childless couple. She had the baby bump, the labor pains, even the baby pictures. What she didn't have was a baby.
I lost it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this isn't real.
Stay with us. Now, a couple unable to conceive and willing to do almost anything to get a baby. But as Rena Ninen first reported in 2014, little did they know they'd end up victims, not parents.
Even before they got married, Mark and Tracy Dzansky, living in a kid-friendly community outside of Chicago, talked about having children.
Can't wait to have a little girl and put her in the sundresses and fix her hair.
But Tracy was unable to conceive, and going through adoption agencies can be an ordeal.
It takes so long and it's so expensive.
So the Dzanskys decided to write a heartfelt ad on Craigslist.
We want a child more than anything in the world. We are not rich, but we can give that child anything or everything they may need.
It's a growing trend, wannabe parents going online to adopt a child. Legal? Yes. Guaranteed? No. Finally, the Dzanskis get the answer they've been waiting for from a pregnant mom almost 1,000 miles away in North Carolina.
She knew that she couldn't take care of this baby.
Heather Taylor lives in this trailer and is struggling to make ends meet. She's willing to give Mark and Tracy her baby. So it's time to go shopping.
We got a few of the items and all the equipment and whatever else the baby needed here.
The local Babies R Us wasn't the only place the Jakinskis were dropping cash.
Naturally, during the pregnancy, there were some financial expenses that she said she needed money for.
And we didn't hesitate. I mean, you know, we want to keep her healthy. She's carrying our adopted baby.
Weeks later, Heather unexpectedly goes into labor. Tracy is actually on the phone as Heather rushes to the hospital.
She's having a C-section, and I'm on the phone with her in the living room. I mean, you could hear, like, the heart rate and everything. And then a couple minutes later, there's a baby crying. Oh my gosh, Tracy, it's a girl. I love Mommy. Is that the one that says Daddy loves me? Yeah, Daddy's sweetheart.
Did you give the baby a name?
We did. Anna Rosemary.
Anna Rosemary.
Yeah.
Heather now says she needs more money for Anna Rosemary's expenses. The total tab now around $1,500.
Diapers, formula.
I said as long as it's for the baby,
yeah,
I don't have a problem with it.
Don't hesitate.
And then Heather sends you this.
Yeah, that's when we pretty much lost it. We're just in awe, you know. We're just, oh my gosh, this is real. That's our baby. Love the wrinkles on the back.
Now they're just anxiously waiting for Heather to come from North Carolina to Chicago to drop off little Anna. But where was she?
Oh, it's one thing after another. Her brother was in a car accident. She missed her plane. The baby had breathing problems. She didn't want to fly. She wanted to drive.
Then Heather drops a bombshell.
She's changed her mind that her mom was going to help out, that she would be able to afford to keep our Anna.
Devastated and now suspicious, Tracy goes back to Craigslist and contacts other couples, wondering, is this a scam? Sure enough, she hears from a woman named Nicole who says Heather was giving birth to her baby too.
I lost it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this isn't real.
No, it wasn't real. The pregnancy, the sounds of a newborn crying in the hospital room, those photos, all part of an elaborate and heartless scheme. There was never a baby.
And it was all a lie.
It was all a lie.
Detective David Flynn from the Pitt County Sheriff's Department says Nicole, the North Carolina victim, got these photos as proof of Heather's fake pregnancy.
So she's pretending here to be pregnant.
That's correct. I'm not sure what she used to make her belly bigger.
So who is Heather really? Well, she's no stranger to the law, arrested for writing bad checks and identity theft.
And speaking with Heather Taylor's family, she's had a long history of making up stories.
And we told her, so if you can start paying us back every month some of the money, I won't press charges.
But just like the baby, the refund was never delivered.
I said, you're full of it, we're done. I said, you'll be hearing from the detective.
Authorities say the suspect solicited people on Craigslist claiming to be pregnant and needing money.
She was arrested and charged with a felony.
She was given 36 months supervised probation, and she had to seek mental treatment.
She was also ordered to pay restitution.
I guess it really isn't even the money that hurts the most.
The emotional toll that this took on them, you really can't repay them for that.
How could you be so cruel and mean and deceitful to do this to somebody? I was just heartbroken.
It's like the baby died almost, or
right.
Were you mourning?
Oh gosh, for months. Our little Anna would be a year old.
Despite their awful experience, the Dzanskis haven't abandoned their dreams of parenthood. Soon, they hope to start fostering to eventually adopt a child.
And you believe in your heart it's definitely going to happen?
Yes. There's no doubt in my mind. That baby's going to have nothing but the best.
As of 2014, the Dzanskis have obtained a state license to foster children and still hope to formally adopt a baby. Up next, a bride goes missing just before her wedding.
Biggest fear, bar none, is somebody finding Tiffany Bray dead while we're looking for her.
But this disappearance is not what it seems.
They spent quite a bit of time watching me.
And a very surprising ending.
I don't even know till this day where I'd be if they wouldn't have found me.
Stay with us. A woman about to get married is kidnapped. Authorities track her desperate text message. But as Deborah Roberts first reported in 2014, there's a twist. It's a story of something old, something new, something borrowed, and something not quite true.
If you were cruising through Fletcher, Oklahoma a few summers ago, you may have noticed amongst the rolling prairies and homes on the range this startling sight. A billboard about a missing blonde.
Right now, detectives are trying to find 39-year-old Tiffany Bray from Fletcher.
Tiffany Bray, her smiling face peering down in that haunting picture, had vanished, and her frantic family was all over the news.
She's wrong. She's a piece to this family, a piece that we have to have back.
Pleading for information, for anything to help.
We do feel like she is in danger. She needs to be found.
This big mystery on the Great Plains was served with an extra helping of heartbreak. Tiffany disappeared just months before her wedding day. Her fiancé, Chad McGuire, feared he'd have to turn wedding plans into funeral arrangements.
I was worried that she'd run off the road and had a wreck. Tried calling her several times, and it just goes straight to voicemail.
Chad, a plain-spoken power company worker, fell hard for the petite blonde who fit right into his cap and overalls world.
They'd go driving around on the back roads, play in the mud in the Jeeps, have a good time. She seemed to be perfect. She cooked, she cleaned, kept up with the laundry.
Not one for hemming and hawing, this rustic Romeo offered his sweetie a heart necklace for Valentine's Day, and a few months later hopped in his pickup truck with a diamond ring.
She'd handed it around, she said she knew, so I just gave it to her while I was driving down the road. Here you go.
Okay, so it wasn't on bent knee, but Tiffany said yes, and the two moseyed down to Cozumel, Mexico to celebrate.
We did snorkeling, drove around the island, went shopping and looking at the sights.
Back home in Oklahoma, wedding plans are in high gear. Chad's parents even have a little fun with a gift, hinting about who'll wear the overalls in the family. It all seems hunky-dory until one morning a few weeks later when Tiffany puts on a pair of camo shorts, some flip-flops, and hops into Chad's pickup truck to run some errands.
The last text I heard from her, it was around noon. She asked what I wanted for lunch.
He never gets that lunch order because Tiffany never returns.
I was scared. It was about that evening. Went looking for her, and then I filed a missing person report the next morning.
This is not like her. She always calls her mother every day or every other day, regardless of what is going on in her life.
Not a word from his new fiancée for 96 excruciating hours. Then a text message sent from her phone that has Chad fit to be tied.
4 days later, I got that text that she's kidnapped.
It reads, "Need help somewhere in Lawton, in dark room. White man. Please help me. Not sure I can use this again."
The text message comes in of that nature that takes it to the forefront of the seriousness of what may be going on.
Richard Goss, a no-nonsense special agent in charge of the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, doesn't take kindly to the thought of a woman being abducted.
Everything had to go on hold while we address this kidnapping. Biggest fear, bar none, is somebody finding Tiffany Bray dead while we're looking for her.
She wouldn't be hard just to snatch up and throw in a van or something like that.
Tommy Lewis, an old family acquaintance who values friendship as much as his Christian faith, is happy to help.
You will not go empty-handed.
How involved were you?
We spent our time and money searching, trying to assist investigators. The longer something like that goes on, the more in your head you're thinking this is not going to end good. We're out looking for a dead person.
And Chad has even more to worry about. His fiancée has vanished under suspicious circumstances. And as the last person to see her alive, suspicion is directed at him.
They spent quite a bit of time parked down the hill from my house watching me. They thought I'd done something to her.
The story tears through town like a twister, and fortunately, the whirlwind coverage leads to the first major break in the case.
It was brought to the attention of a former employer looking through a computer that she had access to, and they had discovered some email exchange between Tiffany and a man in Texas.
That man is Steve Thomas, a secret acquaintance Tiffany had met online. Steve lives 5 hours away in Palestine, Texas, a body shop worker with an unusual hobby, making medieval armor. Investigators are soon hot on his trail.
The next stop, obviously, is find the man in Texas.
They soon track Steve's cell phone, not to Palestine, but 360 miles south to coastal Corpus Christi.
The cellular provider was right on the money as far as the location of the phone.
That location, this no-tell motel. So imagine their surprise when they bust into the room and find her only injury is a bad sunburn.
I would say that we knew positively when we walked into the motel room that she was safe and sound. It had all been a hoax.
A wild goose chase. Turns out Tiffany's no kidnap victim, but a reluctant bride with a bad case of cold feet. She agreed to tell us her story for the first time, explaining that she dreamed of more than cooking and cleaning for Chad.
Chad was a nice guy. I just was not happy with my life.
So why didn't you just break it off, say it was a big mistake?
I can't answer it. I just felt like I couldn't breathe anymore.
Her plan, if you can call it that, began that July morning.
Got up, got ready. I said I'm going to town.
Instead, she takes a detour, a huge one, in Chad's truck. She cruises 70 miles up I-44 to an Oklahoma City pawn shop and literally sells off her fiancé's heart. His heart necklace, that is.
How much did you get for your necklace?
Like $60 maybe.
Chump change that would barely pay for a tank of gas. So later, off goes the $2,500 engagement ring to the pawn shop, too.
What's going through your mind as you're driving?
The whole time I was driving, I was shaking. I was so confused. I thought, you know what? I have this address for Steve in Texas. That's where I'll go.
Steve, that online friend with a passion for medieval attire. He was dreaming of making a future with his Oklahoma princess and had no idea she wasn't available.
This must have been a powerful connection with this guy in Texas for you to just drop everything and run to him.
It was just somewhere to go. It was my escape. It was my way out.
I mean, you had to be thinking, somebody might find me, spot me.
I mean, all I was doing was leaving, and my thought, it wasn't against the law to take off and not tell anybody where I was going.
But what about that desperate text for help?
Why'd you do that?
Maybe it was me crying out somehow. I don't know.
So it didn't occur to you that the police might get involved?
No, I had no idea.
The duo head south to coastal Corpus Christi to find a fresh start. But their new life isn't exactly Camelot. The cash-strapped couple check into that low-rent motel where room 206 goes for about $30 a night. Yes, just like Garth Brooks put it.
What did you do with yourself those days?
Absolutely nothing. Once, I think we went out shopping. Occasionally, we go to a fast food or something like that.
It was a far cry from the fancy Mexican vacation she'd just taken with her fiancé, Chad.
Are you feeling bad at all?
I wasn't in that clear state of mind, I guess. You just try to block that out somehow.
But there's no blocking the cell phone signal of her Texas squire. Soon, there's someone at the door, and it's not room service.
Someone knocked at the door, and it was the FBI.
Surrounded by unhappy state agents, it's time for a reality check.
I was immediately, of course, scared. You escape from something and not realize how bad you're hurting everybody else around you. So it's actually very selfish.
Finally, this morning, they found her in Corpus Christi with a male companion.
Her companion, Steve, wasn't part of the hoax. Police say Tiffany kept him in the dark. But after logging 6,500 miles, spending 685 man-hours, and more than $34,000 on the case, Inspector Goss isn't inclined to forgive.
When we arrested Tiffany Bray, I had no sympathy for her at all. The #1 cause of death in law enforcement is traffic accidents. I'll be darned if one of my agents or a law enforcement officer should lose his life for a game.
Tiffany is arrested for taking Chad's truck and falsely reporting a crime.
I was happy I wasn't a suspect anymore, and I was glad that she was found all right, saved, but I wasn't too happy.
Neither was Tommy Lewis.
I got a phone call from my then best friend telling me we found Tiffany and she's alive. And at first I was just angry at her, you know. It was like, oh my God, what was she thinking? How could she do this to us?
Never.
Tiffany's family asked the same question. Though they bailed her out after 5 weeks in jail, relatives kept a tight leash on the absentee bride.
I was allowed to go to work and go straight home.
It sounds like they had trouble trusting you.
So I just ended up moving out. So no, I don't have a relationship with my family.
Tiffany was able to cut a deal with prosecutors. No more time in the slam for the charges she faced as long as she pays back the $34,000 spent on her search. And it's not over yet. She's working 60-hour weeks to settle up with the OSBI, $560 a month for 5 years.
I'm very grateful that they did find me, because I don't even know till this day where I'd be if they wouldn't have found me. I went to counseling because the guilt alone will eat at you every single day.
Suffice it to say, the wedding was off, but Chad's achy-breaky heart seems to have mended quickly.
If they hadn't come got her stuff, I was going to have a runaway bride garage sale.
And guess what? There's a happy ending to this tangled love story. Remember Tommy, Tiffany's family friend?
We just kind of started hanging out more and enjoying each other's company, and I invited her to church, and the relationship just kind of blossomed.
Never forget that history, and that we always use it to guide ourselves in the future.
And soon those church bells were ringing for them.
Were you worried on the wedding day about whether she was going to show?
I'd be lying if I said it didn't cross my mind.
What was it that you found in this relationship that you just did not feel that you had in your life before?
Love. Never felt like I had that before.
As of 2014, Tiffany Bray says she and her husband Tommy are doing well. She continues to make payments to the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation. As for her former fiancé, Chad, he says he wishes Tiffany the best and has no regrets. I'm John Quinones. Please join us next time for another edition of 2020 on ID.